Now that we have the code committed to GitHub, let's go ahead and create a CI/CD pipeline so we can deploy our SQL query to our database. So I'm here in Azure DevOps, and what I'm going to do is go to Pipelines, and I'm going to create a new pipeline. From here, I'm going to choose GitHub so I can say specifically where my code is. I'm going to choose my DevOps for Database repo, and then I'm going to do a starter pipeline. All right, I'm going to get rid of everything under line 12 here. I'm going to open up the assistant, and I'm going to type in SQL. I'm going to click on the first option here, and I'm going to put in my information like my Azure subscription, my SQL database. Not going to put any database name, my username, and my password. So I'm actually going to create variables for these. So I'll say SQL username, and then I'll say password. Okay, so I'm going to go to variables here. I'm going to add a new variable. The first variable that I add here is going to be my username, and I'll say SQL username. I'll click OK here, save. And then for the password, I'm going to do a secret password. So I'm going to ensure that it's encrypted. The password doesn't actually show up in any logs, nothing like that. So then I'm going to go back to variables here. I'm going to do add. I'm going to say keep this value secret. I'm going to pass in my password. As you can see, it's not in plain text here. I'm going to say SQL password. Okay, and then I'm going to click OK here, and then I'm going to say save. Okay, coming down here to the MySQL script, I'm going to put in my path. So the path is SQL query / create users.sql, and then I'm going to click add. And as we can see, the task has now been created. One thing that you might have to do is if you go to the portal here, I'm going to go to my resource groups, I'm going to go to cloud skills, I'm going to go to my database, and then I'm going to go to connection security. So you're going to want to ensure that allow access to Azure services is turned on. That way Azure DevOps can connect to the database. So I'm going to go back here, and then I'm going to save and run. I'm going to commit it. This is going to go through and create our pipeline for us. Okay, now our pipeline is created. I'm going to go to the job here. I'm going to ensure that I give it permissions. I'm going to say yes. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to wait for the CI/CD pipeline to run with our SQL query. And I actually just realized that I have an error here, so it's going to fail. You see how I have password here? If I go to my variables, it's actually SQL password, so it's not going to be able to authenticate. All right, so I'm going to save that. So now it's SQL password. I'm going to click save, commit again. Okay, and then I'm going to open up my pipeline here. As you can see, it failed. So let's give this a second to come up. All right, so we have this new pipeline here. We'll go ahead and we'll look at the job. And this one should hopefully now work. And as we can see here, the pipeline was successful. And we now have a new database created called Cloud Skills, and our user is created.